Further analysis on the major developments internationally over the last few hours. I want to bring in foreign editor at The Australian, Greg Sheridan. We've spoken about the unpredictable diplomacy of Donald Trump. But if this works, he's right. That day, that moment at the White House would go down in history if it does achieve peace in the Middle East, Greg.
Yeah, Kieran, great to be with you, but that is a very big if. I think overall, the realist in me says this is fairly unlikely to come about. But there is more reason for hope with the Americans deeply involved. Now, the Palestinian leaders who've spoken about this so far have been crazy because they're poo-pooing it. But the Palestinian leadership never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity. Here is a historic chance to involve the Americans directly in the economic, social and political success of the Palestinian territories. That's astounding. You know, the idea that the President of America would chair the supervising authority for Gaza. America is not trying to acquire Gaza. There's no sense of permanent colonialism here. This gives Netanyahu an off-ramp from the conflict, and it gives hope for the Palestinians. But one reason I'm quite pessimistic, and the Gulf states seem to be on board, which is a very good thing. One reason I'm fairly pessimistic, though, is Hamas has to sign effectively its own death warrant. The agreement does provide for them to be given amnesty and safe passage, but they would have to give up all political influence in Gaza, give up the remaining Israeli hostages. Now, so far, they've been happy for tens of thousands of their fellow Palestinians to die in the interests of their political power. So and there will be pressure on them from the Gulf states to agree to this, but still I'd be quite surprised if they actually come back with a simple yes. That would be a surprise. We hope that they do, because there does need to be some sort of circuit breaker. But the thing that the drama of a Trump Oval Office meeting, it never ceases to amaze. And the fact that he put Netanyahu on the spot to make that apology to the leader of Qatar was quite interesting as well, watching the dynamics, the body language and all of that. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Kieran. It's an amazing thing. It's an only with Trump moment. I've covered Benjamin Netanyahu for many, many years, and I can't remember very many apologies from him. So here is something Trump has delivered to the Gulf states. This is Trump's deal-making, in a sense, at its in some ways at its best. He has delivered to Qatar an apology from Israel and a promise not to strike its territory again. So those are big things that he's given to Qatar and to the Gulf states. And in exchange, they are supporting his deal. However, you would have to say, although these White House meetings have great drama, there's not a great record of the things which get announced actually coming about. You remember his summit with Vladimir Putin just a few weeks ago, and there was going to be a meeting between Putin and Zelensky. Within a week or two, there was going to be a deal. Trump was heard on a hot mic telling Emmanuel Macron that he was sure Putin wanted to do a deal just for him and all the rest of it. And in the end, none of that came about. Trump is brilliant impresario of the theatre of these White House meetings. He has proven to be very poor on the follow-through. But this is why it will be an absolute tragedy if the Palestinians reject this, because the foolish business of recognising a Palestinian state has prompted Netanyahu to want to go ahead and annex part of the West Bank. It's been completely counterproductive, as I thought it would be. And here's Trump offering the Palestinians something which forestalls that annexation and involves America productively in their economic future. It's a fantastic opportunity for them. But as I say, they've never missed an opportunity in the past to miss an opportunity.
The Pentagon, with more sources being reported, this time in the Nikkei in Asia, news reports that the AUKUS deal is going to be fine and could be timely ahead of the Prime Minister's much anticipated, long awaited meeting with Donald Trump on October 20.
Yeah, Kieran, to tell you the truth, this doesn't disturb my basic analysis that AUKUS is in a lot of trouble. But Trump is unlikely to pull the plug on AUKUS or anything, because at the moment, the Americans just lie back and take the money. So, you know, the only thing the Albanese government is capable of doing is spending money. It's not really capable of any other coherent policy formulation. And at the moment, it's going to give billions and billions of dollars to the Americans and to the British to increase or augment their submarine manufacturing capabilities, in the idea that we'll ultimately benefit from this. But the moment of truth with AUKUS doesn't come until 2031. So Trump won't be president by then. And it will be, does an American president think that we are a strong enough and good enough ally that they will take a Virginia-class sub out of their order of battle and give it to us for a few more $1 billion? Now, I think the way that's going to go, let me give you a long-run forecast, will not be that the American president of the time, J.D. Vance or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or whoever it might be, they're not going to say, no, we've ditched AUKUS altogether. They're going to say, you Australians aren't ready yet, especially if they think we're likely to sit out any conflict over Taiwan. They'll just say, you're not quite ready yet, and we're a bit stressed for production. So let's keep working together, and let's give you a sub within 4 or 5 years. So instead of 2031 for 2032, it'll become 2036 for 2037 or something like this. Now, the Albanese government itself has been so slow. They haven't even defined the precincts of the Henderson military precinct in Perth. They haven't begun work on it. They haven't chosen an East Coast submarine base. They haven't increased defence expenditure as a percentage of GDP. So they are not behaving as if they're serious. And I still think we're in a lot of trouble with AUKUS, but I don't think Trump is going to say the deal's over, so stop giving America the money. And by the way, that would imperil the alliance. Anything's possible, but I think that's unlikely. But I think that's a false sense of security that we're going to be lulled into.
And finally, your piece in The Australian today, always a must-read, the analysis, but loving the Beatles references today, Greg.
Yeah, so I've labelled the Albanese trip the magical mystery tour. I mean, it was all fantasy. You know, the Prime Minister's people briefing out about Australian leadership at the UN. There were fewer people watching Albanese's speech than watched Netanyahu's speech, and he was subject to a boycott. The terrible failure in the South Pacific with Papua New Guinea and Vanuatu, all the ridiculous posturing on Palestine, which has nothing to do with our national interests. And I said, really, maybe it's not the magical mystery tour. The right Beatles reference is Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Our politics has just become a series of uncosted and unrealisable fantasies which each side promises to the voters in the hope that they get benefit from the announcement, and the implementation, everybody forgets about it by the time it comes around. I think it was a completely unproductive trip, and really, in the end, in Britain, with that ludicrous speech to the British Labour conference, which he could have given 30 years ago in the Sydney Town Hall, it was actually an embarrassing trip.
Embracing democracy. Yeah. Yeah, what was the
as
line?
If they were going to embrace Stalinism instead. Embrace
that was very enjoyable,
instead.
Greg. Thank
what
you.
A triumph.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that is a triumph. Thank you, as always. We'll talk to you next week.